With their business in Cleveland done, the Nets will be right back in action tomorrow night when they host Miami in the front end of a two-game series at Barclays Center. There is a time change. The start of action has been pushed back slightly, which means our coverage is going to begin at 7:30 with the Brooklyn Nets pregame show presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Tip-off set for a little after 8 o'clock. We're back on the Nets postgame show. And offensively, we saw some good things. They share the ball, opportunities for all, they shoot well. But, Sarah, it's also a lot about sacrifice on defense. There are the rankings, offense and defense. The Nets offense, well, it's not an issue, but they had few answers on defense.
Well, yeah, and I think the one thing that stands out for as much as you look at the points allowed, possessions, and talked about a lot. Kevin Durant not on the floor tonight. Offensively, that hurts, but he's the Nets' best defender, so it factors into that end of the floor as well.
And you mentioned the points in the paint. 64 paints in the point the other night. 70 tonight for the Cavaliers versus the 46 for the Nets. Outscored 37-24 in that key third quarter. For more, we check back in with our play-by-play team, Ian Eagle and Richard Jefferson.
Nancy, the third quarter really did the Nets in. Cleveland had tremendous energy, and Richard, we know the defense is going to continue to be a topic. Teams will look to take advantage of the Nets' weaknesses, and the Cavaliers gained a lot of confidence in these two games. Both games, two of the best offensive performances we've seen from Cleveland this season.
Yeah, and the Cleveland Cavaliers added a lot when they added Jared Allen and they added Taurean Prince. Yep. We saw that, not only in the first game but in this game tonight. But really and truly, the Nets have the attention of the entire basketball community, the entire basketball world, not just from the fan standpoint, but from team standpoint. And okay, how do we match up with this group? How can we beat this team? What are the things that we're going to need to do to tweak our competition level against them? And so, these two games really kind of gave a formula for success. But the good news is that the Nets also know. They know the areas that they need to improve to get where they have to go.
And, Richard, you've lived through this, playing on teams with big names. That also brings a higher scrutiny level. Everybody is watching. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody is dissecting your problems, and sometimes those problems grow because of all the chatter. Steve Nash is well aware of it. He talked about it pregame, pride on defense, how those things must change. And for Brooklyn, no Kevin Durant, so this was an opportunity to see Irving and Harden. What were your thoughts on the two of them playing together?
Well, it's funny. There was so much conversation in would there be enough offensive opportunities for the three players. Yeah. I don't think there's any question of that at this point in time. We look at guys like Jeff Green and Joe Harris their offensive opportunities have actually expanded with the quality of talent around them. So I don't look at that. It's all about defense. It's all about rebounding. Obviously, not having Kevin Durant, your 7-foot, wing player out there hurts your rebounding opportunities, but you're going to have to defend, and it's going to start with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. If those guys defend at a good level, then this team is going to be a force. But that's where the sacrifice is going to come in, not on the offensive end, but on the defensive end.
Second half of the back-to-back, it's the Miami Heat coming to town. It has not been a smooth road so far for Miami. We know they have a lot of talent, but they've dealt with a bunch of injuries. And Miami right now still looking for its footing here in 2021.
Yeah, they're going to be a good team later. Understand, when we talk about that quick turnover, everyone was talking about the Lakers. Well, the Miami Heat and their young players got a lot of minutes late into the season. So for them to have this quick turnaround, it was going to be a little difficult in my opinion. They didn't have any real additions, so that this team was pretty set when they showed up to start this year. So when you have a couple of injuries, some COVID protocol situations, and they played a ton of minutes late, it's going to be, I think they're going to build up as the season progresses.
It's now a 2-game losing streak for the Brooklyn Nets. They'll try to put an end to it against Miami here at Barclays Center. Nancy, Sarah, back to you.
Thanks, Ian. Nets now 9-8 overall. 125. Terrific performance. from him. As promised, time to bring in our Richard Jefferson. And Richard, you talked in the pregame about how this Nets offense would flow. What would it look like? And the fact that they needed to limit turnovers. We did see that huge response late and into overtime. It's just game one. Not quite enough, though. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't quite enough tonight, but there was a lot of positives. One, I stand by that. There was definitely a fatigue factor when you have Kyrie with the break, the short break that he was on. Then you had you have James Harden that's still building up his conditioning, and then all of a sudden you get a double overtime game when you're asked to play 50 minutes. That's next to impossible to be. I don't care how great of a player you are to be able to knock down big shots. A lot of shots fell short, but ultimately I think the Nets, they had the opportunity to really kind of take complete control after starting the game 10 for 10, but they turned the ball over, and then after that they missed their next 11 shots. So it was really a roller coaster to start this game, and then they found themselves in a dogfight, and Colin Sexton just took over in that second quarter, or in that second overtime.
Richard, at the end of the first overtime, 1.2 seconds to go, you mentioned it on the telecast, where Kevin Durant, it looked like he wanted that ball a little bit sooner on the inbounds pass from Kyrie Irving. What about that?
Well, look, at the end of the day, Kyrie's in a difficult spot because he's got Jared Allen guarding him, so, the range and area that you can just throw a pass isn't very, very easy. And also, too, they still got a very good shot. So his job as the inbounder is to be as safe as possible. That being said, if there was a slight opportunity to get him that ball, maybe a second and a half earlier where he's shooting that turnaround from 17 and not, 21 feet, that would make that shot that much easier, especially late in the game. The shot fell short, as a lot of their shots did late. So the closer that shot would have been, the better. But, still got a quality shot, still didn't turn over the ball. So, it just didn't fall tonight.
Richard, talk about Kyrie Irving, and he's working his way back. How did he look to you today?
This wasn't a 2-week vacation. He was doing everything he needed to do to make sure that he was in prime condition when he came back to the Brooklyn Nets.
This group of players, Richard, they played the last 18:45 of the game, including Kyrie, who, like you mentioned, had been off for 2 weeks. What do you make of that? It seems like Steve Nash still has to try to figure it out because they went really small. It worked for a while. Obviously, that second overtime, they didn't have much left.
Yeah, they didn't have much left, and that's bound to happen. I would look for him even in that next game on Friday. The teams aren't practicing a lot. The only way to really, truly improve your conditioning sometime is to play through it. I do crack, a few jokes about the sports science team that that they're going nuts seeing these, especially with, like we talked about James Harden, we talked about Kyrie, but ultimately these guys are professionals. They are the most finely tuned athletes in the entire world. They're able to handle this. Now, is this something that you want to see consistently? No, but the guys looked good. They were moving well, and it's just one of those things, you respect Steve Nash's decision. I actually personally like to see this. Go with your horses. They'll have a complete day off tomorrow, and then Friday, maybe get some substitutions early so that they're not playing that full game, and then give them that second half. But I actually like to see stars, playing like stars and playing those minutes.
Richard, what about Kevin Durant? Let's turn our attention now to him. He and Harden working that pick and roll. They were on
the overtime, whether it was deflection, steals, block shots. That's what they're going to need. Look at this, a 12 for 25, 12, 8, and 4 night, 4 blocks for Kevin Durant and 38 points. Like, the dude looks like he never missed any time, any games. It looks like, he's, one of the best players on the planet.
50 minutes for James Harden tonight, Richard, and he only takes 14 shots. I was looking at his stats from last year. He had a game where he took 41 shots. You mentioned him deferring. He had played so well in those first 2 games, initiating the offense, scoring. Do you think he deferred maybe too much in this game?
No, I don't think so. I think his goal, like, again, we're talking about a man that just had a 21 point, 10 rebound, 12 assists. He just had a triple-double, right? So it's like he knows how to get anything he wants out of the game. And like I said, I want to compliment him or respect him. When you allow a guy like, Kyrie Irving to get going, here, Kyrie, get your rhythm going. Like, this is a big three, one of the best big threes talent-wise and accomplished-wise that we've seen in a while. And so when you really really break it down, the way he really finessed the game, got Jeff Green, had a great first half. There was a lot of contribution from guys. And if James Harden's going to take on that role of I believe I can average a triple-double, but again, he only took 2 or 3 shot attempts, and then he had double-digit shot attempts in the second half. He's going to have double-digit most likely on both halves, but I think this was purely by intention to make sure that he could get everyone going and everyone flowing.
So it's a day off and then another game at this very same team in the very same town at Cleveland on Friday. What's the approach?
Well, I think the approach is understanding that, you got to limit your turnovers. They shot the ball extremely efficient, but there were some defensive lapses, and look, they're still figuring it out. Everyone expects that when you put these teams together, that it's going to be this fireworks from the beginning. They're going to have some moments, like you saw, start off the game 10 for 10. Everything's going crazy. Then they mix their next 11 shots and they have 7 turnovers in the first half. These are things that they will correct. They will become more consistent. They'll get a better flow for each other. Okay, Kevin Durant's missed a couple of shots, couple of threes. Maybe James Harden doesn't take a 3. He decides to go downhill because they've shot a bunch of jumpers. It's all a rhythm and a flow for everyone in the organization, including the coaching staff, figuring out the best way to keep 2 superstars on the court, give one a break. If that means allowing James Harden to start the game, kind of distributing the ball, then allow Kyrie to handle the ball at the end of the first quarter and the start of the second quarter. So there's a lot of things that you're going to tweak and you're going to play with, and it's probably